Hey there, friends and family. Dana here, otherwise known as Dana Spirit Butterfly, for those of you who know me in that way. This video is a video to wrap up the 2021 portal. It's our offering to you. We're endeavouring to get this to you a little bit early, hopefully to assist you with what's coming for you over the next 6 to 12 months. And in order to do that, sometimes we need to acknowledge where we've come from and some of the grief that has not been processed yet. So this video, we're going to do a little bit of a recap. I am in alignment with spirit, but present with me. So some of the work that I offer, those of you who know, is the Sacred Rose Awakening, hence the pink roses, the colour of unconditional love in rose form. And I mention that because I'm a spirit worker who is aligned quite closely with what we call the sacred feminine rising. So that which you will hear through my voice when I channel for you has a particular emphasis to bring through a particular vibration or energy, if you will, that helps to amass that particular energy on the planet. And so my name, for those of you who don't know, actually translates as compassionate giving. So I work quite diligently on myself and in my practices to support you in yours. And so hopefully this video is no exception. Before we go forwards, I also just want to recognise that I'm currently situated on Bunjalong land of the Arawak Nation, and that I pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging as an Anglo-Celtic white Australian of 5th and 6th generation on my father's side. I was born here, but my origins are from overseas, and that places me quite beautifully in the middle of allowing the magic that is my own innate spirituality from the Celtic witchcraft past life that I now embody, and to bring that forwards into this reality to assist the rebalance. And as I say this, the rebalance this year in many ways has been a year of courage. So many of us have needed to be fully transparent with who we are. And there are some incidents that are often delivered at your front door as a part of your own spiritual process. And when we use the term spiritual, we're really talking about this internal process of dialoguing with yourself about your whys. You know, why are you here? What is your purpose? Do I really want these relationships in my life? Do I know what love is? Am I being loving? How compassionate do I need to be in this circumstance? And am I giving my power away? These types of deeper questions are necessary and certainly have been necessary during 2021. And Spirit is reminding me that 2021 very much was a continuation of the energy of 2020 in the lead up to 2022 and 2023. I am being told that at the moment we are heading towards a massive healing portal for 2022 in reference to 2023. So we are leading up to something. And I know that in your own experience, if you haven't been diving into your own spirituality, you will probably have less ease at realizing that the processes that you go through on a daily basis actually tie into a much bigger wave or plan. And so 2021 was very much about transparency, as we mentioned. And transparency in the media, you would have seen this as the doubting of certain factual information and the doubting of certain media personnel and the doubting of people saying what they actually say is whether it is true or not. And truth is a shifting thing. Truth is something that there's a debate around whether or not there can be truth that seems to be factual, but actually also from a different perspective makes that fact null and void. And you just need to have a look at some of the dialogue within the scientific community to see that sometimes it's actually more complex to decide what is a fact than it is to recognize that we are all individuals with our own unique eyes to see the world out of, and those eyes create perspective. And so as I go looking for something, chances are I'll find it. And so a lot of the media dialogues have been about where to point attention to so that the eyes that are seeing are actually looking in particular directions over others. And, you know, I get a sense of kind of a warning there. Some of you may actually be triggered by this particular dialogue. And it's not a bad idea, actually, if you're triggered by the dialogue in itself, Triggering isn't actually the problem. The challenge for us has been that many of us don't deal with triggers particularly well. We see them as inherently bad and something to be avoided. Spirit has shown me over a passage of a number of years, and certainly this year for me it's really landed, that trauma can be healing if it's approached with diligence and care. Trauma can be healing if it's approached with diligence and care. And I had to say that a second time so that you would slow down a little bit and understand what trauma actually is. Because trauma is often something that we experience when we reach a point of overwhelm, where things move too fast for us and we can't keep up. Our systems overwhelm. And when they're overwhelmed, we feel like we're not resourced to be able to do what it is that's being asked of us. And what happens is we start to regress into an early childhood response where, if memory serves you, at some point you would have been in a situation where an adult or someone who is in an elder position would have asked or made demands upon you that just didn't feel right for you. And this is an energy, that was very much on the planet during 2021. Spirit is bringing me back a little bit more, back to the whole trauma, but before trauma. We want to just acknowledge what it is that triggers trauma in the first place. Remember that for us, trauma is actually a port or a possibility, a potential for healing. It isn't always. Before the trauma, though, comes experience. And quite often experience in itself is actually neither traumatic or untraumatic. Sometimes experience is just an experience. So for example, you may be in a car accident. And at the time, in the moment of that car accident, you're not necessarily feeling or sensing or noticing any trauma. After the car accident, your mind starts to perceive what actually happened. So what it is that your system went through, it just went through it. And then afterwards, the mind looked back at it and went, what the hell just happened? And through the process of trying to figure it out, trauma pathways are created. Now, this is not across the board for all types of trauma, but for many of you in a psychological environment at the moment, such as here, our minds create illusions, and those illusions aren't bad, good, or ugly, or pretty, or anything. They are a variety of things. The illusion is simply based on the fact that you have eyes that you look out of that see the world, and as you see the world, you see things, and those things become a part of the mapping system in your mind. Now, if you didn't have something called programs, you would be using a lot of energy in order to take in all of the different bits of sensory data that is available in the external world in order to try to make sense of it. But we have been gifted with programs or programming in order to simplify the energetic output of this process. So for example, when I see these flowers, I already know that they're roses. I have a program that tells me that when I look at something that looks like this, I know that they're roses. And along with that comes an associated meaning. Now, the meaning in this particular conversation doesn't actually matter, but in reference to 2021, most of us started to actually look at the roses from a different perspective or a different lens. And we started to realize that the programs that we have may not actually be the programs that tell us the real story or the full story. So 2021 was a time of opportunity to figure out how to rewire the programs that you've been given through either birth, which is your DNA ancestry, or on a soul level, which is where we start talking about past lives. Either of these two come with programs that may have been asked to upgrade during 2021. The process of upgrading often comes off the back of trauma or off the back of a highly emotional experience. And so those of you who have ever been to any of my healing circles, we work a lot with obviously the vibration of universal love. And that energy, when we build it in your system, it feels so sweet and luscious and beautiful. And that is very close to what we experience when we don't have physical vehicles that feel pain and suffering and grief and all of those things. But what the physical energy of love actually also gifts us is with healing. It means that if I sit and listen to someone talk to me about their experience of me, and I'm able to stay situated in love vibrationally, what I hear coming out of their mouths sounds different to if I drop back into a feeling of trauma that triggers a feeling of anxiety or a feeling of sadness or a feeling of any other thing. When I hear that which someone says to me with those particular feelings, I hear different things. And so it serves us to be in a situation that is triggering us for the purposes of asking us to step up into what we call the new reality. And you'll hear spiritual practitioners talk about the new reality. It is off the back of this process. It is not simply meditating and downloading an upgrade. When you get an upgrade, usually you get something that we call spiritual flu. And spiritual flu is a cathartic process, which means that you're going to feel a little bit uncertain and uncomfortable for a while until your system adjusts to the new energy and has life opportunity to express itself in altered form or a different form or the new vibration. This is an extremely long process for some of you with a lot of baggage, either ancestrally, so through your DNA strands, or on a soul level because your soul needs the healing in physical form. Sometimes our astral self, our vibrational self, actually cannot reach the level of healing that we need except in physical form. So sometimes we are incarnated specifically to relive some of the trauma of our past life experience so that we have a different result at the end of it. And so self-love practices actually help us with the filtering mechanism so that which I hear, I can understand how to regularize my energy and process it so that I can stand in my truth. Now, we mentioned before that this shedding process has happened during 2021. 2022, there'll be a lot more surrendering into the space. There'll be a lot more letting go of the things that we don't need. Some of the stuff that you're telling yourself currently that you need, you actually don't need, but you've not been asked to look at those things, and except you will possibly be asked to look at those things in 2022. We want to say, don't panic. It actually isn't a process that you can just rub out. And indeed, the challenge is if I avoid the life lessons that are being delivered to my door, quite often the universe in its wisdom, our higher intelligence, starts to create warps in the field that lead to accidental events happening or unexpected events happening. And sometimes they can be quite dramatic. The drama isn't the problem, but usually the level of drama actually reflects the level of blindness or avoidance that you're actually activating in your system. So I feel a higher intelligence stepping through that's really just saying, please forgive the experience that you've had for 2021. Please forgive yourself for any of the embarrassment or any of the frustration or any of the guilt that you feel for stepping up and expressing your truth. We're asking you to just let go. We're asking you to trust that there's a higher purpose and a divine plan that's working through you at the moment. The irony is that I get people who I read for all the time and they ask me for assurance that they're on the right path. And the answer has never been you're off path. Sometimes we deviate a little bit away from alignment to create a dynamic in order to learn a lesson more deeply. And again, that's when we tend to get a lot of dramatic fallout and a lot of cathartic purging. The best thing to do is to create space so that you can do some soul recovery work. And if you need some assistance with that, I'm available for healings. That's what healings do. We help to bring you back to some level of balance so that you can start to see yourself better and go back on the dialogue of repair. It's actually a nervous system resetting program that assists you to find yourself again. And interestingly enough, when you find yourself, you'll realize that you're not alone. It's one of those duality illusions. If we think that me spending time alone actually takes me away from people, the reverse is actually more closely true. The more true you are to you and the more space you create to be able to hear the dialogue that you're having with yourself, the easier it is for you to find connection with others who are going through similar things. Synchronicity is a really good example of this. And so if you're doing a lot of rest and repair and you're really making good use of those upgrades, you'll notice synchronicity appears and it speeds up and it becomes really obvious that you're on the right path. I personally call synchronicity love notes from the universe or the spirit oneness, us being a part of the spirit oneness. And this is because it really is where alignment puts you on the path of obvious that everything that you're doing right now is exactly what is needed for your soul to grow. So synchronicity, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, some see it numerologically, which basically means I'll start to see reoccurring numbers like 111, 222, 333. But synchronicity can also come in the guise of having a similar conversation with, having a conversation with yourself and then meeting someone shortly afterwards, realizing that they're having a similar conversation with themselves privately. It'll come with people having life experience that is similar to yours, just suddenly appearing out of the blue where you've never ever met any person who's had that experience. A lot of this is really just validation that you're on the right path, validation that you're doing all the things that are required of your soul plan, and also an acknowledgement that in your whole experience, you aren't actually alone in it. There are other people going through it at the same time. So these types of incidences are speeding up. It's partially because of the available light on the planet at the moment. There's a hell of a lot more than there was. And this is going to increase. The increasing light will continue until 2025. There's going to be a massive shift between now and 2025. I get the sense some of you are like, I'm not going to last that long. Trust me, with every upgrade, you actually, and every embodiment practice, so this would be, I download a sense or a realization of why I'm here and what it is that I'm supposed to do, or something in reference to the environment. And then I start to walk that talk. So I'm actually doing something with the information. As I do stuff with the information, the vibrational realignment that's been gifted to you actually holds and stays with you. And your point of magnetism starts to continue along that trajectory as opposed to one of the other possibly lower timelines. And so this process is something that all of us are asked to do at some point. It also gives us the illusion of choice, meaning that whenever it is that I get an idea or a sensation or something where it's like, wow, that's amazing, I can follow through with that if I like, but I also can decide not to. Either way, what it is that you walk is actually what will manifest more strongly for you. And if it's not designed for you, it usually is quite obvious at some point that this is no longer in alignment with you. And this is why we encourage the cultivation of your spidey senses, your psychic senses. It's so beautiful for you to understand how to dialogue with your own energetics. And some of this, it doesn't happen directly. Some of the energetic conversations I need to have happens with my subconscious, which doesn't communicate in direct language. So learning about the clairs, I have a 5-week program that we started at the end of this year and will continue in the beginning of next year. The first one will be on the 10th and 11th of January, and there'll be another one in February. So if that interests you, please contact me. It helps you to understand the multi-layered system that we are comprised of and how to translate vibratory information into usable information so that your brain can understand what it is that this stuff is trying to tell you. And to get into that conversation of spirit is partially why I'm here, is one of the things that I specialize in. And of course, there are a number of ways to do that, but this is what I offer for you. And getting good at that type of language discernment actually helps you to discern truth better when it's expressed from someone else. And also I got the word cultivation. So cultivating that is primarily important for you. I also want to remind you that through this process and through the process of your childhood and through the process of your past life and through all of the things that you've gone through in the past, you've actually never been alone. But the illusion tells you that you're in it alone for a reason. And so if you've spent, and I do know that a number of you spent a significant period of 2021 alone or feeling deeply alone, the facade or the illusion is created so that you have to introspect, so that you have to question how it is that you're functioning. The questions are the important bit. We question so that we can discern more deeply what is actually going on and understand what options may be available to us moving forwards. There has been this emphasis on we cannot go backwards and repeat the sins of the past. The emphasis is we cannot repeat the sins of the past. We can only recreate the new earth, and the new earth in its creation, which is an act of you showing up and walking your talk, takes personal ownership and deliberation internally. So in order to assist the planet rise, if this is your goal, if this is a part of your mission that you feel on a heart level is true for you, it actually doesn't matter how that shows up, and it certainly doesn't matter if you feel alone in it. What matters is that you are honoring yourself, that you are aware that that's your dialogue, and that you keep stepping forwards through your own authentic self. And that sometimes requires you to be fully frank and fearless about where your boundaries lie, and to declare where it is that people are transversing your boundaries. Boundaries will be a very big issue in 2022. We are actually creating a course to support you in that around energy boundaries and psychic protection. I use the term protection loosely because love is actually the greatest protective force, as corny as it sounds, vibrationally. The things that go bump in the night actually can't survive a loving environment. It actually kills them off like bacteria or a virus. So secret is, if you want to do it alone, you're welcome to. Your soul calling is always there. It's always going to be present with you. It's never left you. Even if you decide to go back and work for someone else, you're still on path. But what I can say to you is that love is the answer, but self-love is the important love to dabble in. And sometimes that requires us to separate from the distractions of the external world, i.e. some people, and to spend more time alone. So, sound frequency. We want to say, heading forwards, we're going to do an energy forecast at the beginning of January. We feel like it's not time yet because we want to time it with the new moon. And the new moon's not until the 3rd of January. So we're going to do one to tie it in with the new moon portal and platform. Between now and then, though, we've got what I call butterfly transitions, the Becoming program. So Becoming 2022, it's the 4th year I've done the Becoming program. It's a 5-day meditation and journaling practice. We offer a bit of healing and some ritual to help you with summarizing or consolidating the energetics of what it is that's just happened for you in the last year, or even further if that's necessary and it comes up for you intuitively. We work to find some resolution for it so that as you head into 2022, there's more space. And with more space, once I actually step into the grief of what's happened, and if I allow myself to be able to stay with the energy of it, what happens is that my allowance of the energy allows the energy to move. If I don't acknowledge the energy, if I don't declare that that was shit, if I don't acknowledge that I had experiences where I actually really suffered and I felt terribly horrible and terrorized even, if I can't sit in the space of acknowledgement that I had those feelings and those feelings in those moments were true for me, if I can't acknowledge that, then what happens is we carry this vibration into the future. And Spirit is reminding me that sometimes we need to have those experiences because usually they signal boundary invasions. And boundary invasions are great things if you catch them early, because it helps you to understand where your boundaries lie, where your edges are, and to cultivate practices to call them out earlier. Calling them out earlier means you're going to feel safer in your experience and you're going to have a lot more energy to be able to run your life. Those of you who experience energetic fatigue, often it's a boundary issue. And as I mentioned, we'll be doing energetic boundaries and psychic protection as a course. A little bit later, we've got the clairs coming first and a card reading course first. But the energetic boundaries is an important topic for 2022 because there's going to be a lot more what we call energy infiltration in 2022. Again, please don't be alarmed. The energetic infiltration isn't possible when you're able to hold yourself in a safe and loving environment. And you'll get to the point where you'll be able to discern other people going through suffering and experiences while still maintaining your own level of presence in your body, which is often a form of energy vampirism. And most energy vampires aren't doing it on purpose. They usually are just, they just lack awareness of their own boundary system and their personal power. So let's cultivate that in 2022. I'm also going to start something called acknowledgement circles heading forwards into 2022. These are for women specifically. So those of you who know the few things that I'm really passionate about. One is about psychic language discernment and understanding how to read and perceive energy, and how to maintain my own energetics, my own energy field, and to be in dialogue with that. The second thing I'm really excited about is about the rebuilding of sisterhood and the releasing of our mother wounds, so that we can rest and repair and recharge and start to come forwards more powerfully in our sacred voice. And a sacred voice really is that part of you that is sacrosanct, that part of you that is intrinsically you all the way through, where when you have really great boundaries, you can be that most of the time, and nobody's going to muddy with that, because they can't, because of the way that energy works between people psychically. It takes a while to cultivate to get to that point though, and these sister circles and the sister work that I offer is actually a part of a bigger collective energy flowing through me personally, about repairing that. So stay tuned for that. If that interests you, please email me your interests so that I can add you to our mailing list. I'd very happily include any woman, any womb and vulva owner, specifically womb and vulva owner, that would like to be a part of this. It doesn't matter your sexual orientation, but you do need to be a womb and vulva owner, because there's magic in your yoni, darling, and we are here to return it to you, however that shows up for you personally. The power is in the ability to choose, right? The last thing I do a lot is land work. And so next year there will be with regards to land work, what I'm talking about is basically my own personal connection to the Indigenous land spirit. I mention this because when we are living in a physical geographical location, we are symbiotic with that physical geographical location. No matter how it is that you work, or no matter where it is that you work, even if you are working online all the time with some geographical grid somewhere else, where you are physically located creates an imprint of your energy always. And as you go about your business, everything that you do it impacts the environment. And so my bigger picture thing at the moment really is about reconnect to the environment. And ironically, it is actually the number one thing that you can do to assist yourself with the current energetic environment of the planet that is upsetting most people. Starting to build local community and your connections with local community, and understanding how to have a relationship with the trees and the animals and the plants and the spirit entities that actually exist in your geographical location are actually a really important birthright for all of us. And so we'll talk more about that another time, but that's something that we will bring more forwards through our platforms. And as we do that, we hope that it will inspire you to return back to your own natural origins. And so with that, as we mentioned, 2022, we're going to do a separate video for 2022. We invite you to join our Becoming program, 5 days, starting on the 28th of December or the 29th of December. It is a low-cost commitment, and it gifts you with an opportunity to jump on a live call with myself, but they're recorded as well, so you can do them after the event. And indeed at any time. They are specifically to support you with the transition from end of year to the new year portal. And so we invite you to join us, both men and women. You would be most welcome to join us. We would hate for you to feel left behind. And I know that during this period of time, it's really easy to get distracted and to feel the pressure and weight of expectations of events that are coming and your social calendar. It's so easy to get wrapped up in that. What we want to say to you is that if you spend some time at the end of this year taking stock on what's happened during the year, put aside an afternoon or an evening or even a whole weekend if you like, if you can afford it, of course, spend at least some time doing something with the energy that was the year. If you can do it before New Year, you'll find that there'll be more space and more energy available for you for 2022. We also just want to remind you that we also have summer solstice coming up on the 21st of December. It'll be on the 20th of December in the Northern Hemisphere, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. We will put the dates and time periods in the description of the YouTube video. that's a really important opening. It's just after the full moon. So it is the peak of summer for us here. And so it's a really good time to invest in some energy work to reinforce that which is you intend for your life and to receive into your life. If you're in the winter solstice, if you're heading into winter solstice, it's a really good time also to take stock of where you're at, but for the purposes mostly of letting go of the things that you don't intend to carry any further. And so that process can be a bit sad and it can stimulate quite a bit of grief for you. We want to disarm any of the stigma around feeling grief. Our experience is, as a healer, people who fail to process grief end up with energy locked up in the body and life doesn't flow for them in the way that we are designed to receive. And so we don't want that energy to stay stored in the body. We want to let it go. And in order to let it go, we first have to let it be present and sit with the feelings attached to it. Failure to feel the feelings usually blocks energy, and sitting with the feelings usually starts the process of sending it where it needs to go, which is into your past. And so with that, blessings, kisses. I hope that you are well. If you need some support one-on-one, please contact me. My website, www.danaspiritbutterfly, that's D-A-N-A spiritbutterfly.com. There's a book now button. If you have any problems or any questions, you're also welcome to email me. I will ask you, please, don't send me your life's traumas right now in an email. It is not a good use of either of our energies, and it doesn't hold you in the way that you deserve. So wait to send me information about your life, but please contact me if you'd like a session. More than happy to assist you, but I'm going to ask you to respect my time and your energy and for us to meet in accordance with what it is that we both agree to. So let's have that conversation if you need it. All right. Kisses again. Peace and love to you. I will speak to you again shortly. All right. See ya.